Hello, welcome back everybody. My name is Rich from Deep Groove Mono. I just got back from a fun and exciting trip to the Midwest. Stopped in Chicago and then went on to Madison, Wisconsin. And then coming home, my friend and I, we hit a bunch of cities. We hit Milwaukee, Detroit, Cleveland, and for sure, of course, I did a lot of record shopping at all of these cities. Overall, I don't want to say I was disappointed, but it was tough going, I would say, for the most part. Underwhelmed a little bit in general. Made me appreciate the New York City stores a little bit more, as hard as I am on the New York City stores. The stores had a lot of great new reissues, you know, pretty much anything you'd be looking for, especially in terms of jazz, they had as a new reissue. Vintage stuff was a completely different story. You know, I really did not see a lot of rare stuff, you know, even in the way of OJCs and 70s Blue Label, Blue Notes and that kind of thing. I really did not see that much. There was one exception, which was an amazing shop in Rochester, New York that I knew about because I found out about them through the WFMU Record Fair in 2019 before COVID. And they just are a beacon of shining light in a sea of record store darkness. Huge store, very friendly staff, well stocked. Lots of rare stuff for the original pressing collectors, the first pressing collectors, and also tons of stuff that catered more to me, who's looking for like vintage reissues. I got so much great stuff from there that I want to share with you guys over the next several weeks. Today though, we are focusing on what was probably the most exciting and rewarding find of my whole trip. So before I show you this record though, just let me give you a little setup. At this point I had been to Chicago, Madison, Wisconsin, Milwaukee, and Detroit. I got to Cleveland, go to a couple stores, no luck. End up at this one store that is, according to my friend, the oldest record store in Cleveland. And it was also doubling as a tobacco shop, okay? So walk in, find the jazz section, head over, flipping through. I see one or two things where I'm like, there might be some signs of life here, you know? It's funny too, the more shopping I've been doing and the more record store digging I've been doing, I've been thinking more about the whole phrase signs of life, you know? Like when you start looking at the jazz section, you can get a sense pretty quickly, like, you know, you hit B and you get to Blakey and you're like, do they have anything that resembles an original or a nice vintage pressing with Blakey? If they do, that's promising for the rest of the alphabet, you know, that kind of thing. So it looked pretty promising. So then I get to H and I'm flipping through and I flip and out comes this. And I look closer and I notice that there is no word stereo in the Blue Note logo. Which tells me, aha, this is something, right? Must be an original of some sort. You know, I slide the record out. It's got its share of battle scars. Still, I mean, I think I've been looking at these things long enough to know when the grooves have a little bit of life left in them. And, you know, I'm glad to say that finally when I got home to play it, they certainly do. Side 1 is cleaner than side 2. Side 2's got some pretty serious gashes, but, you know, it's just incredible. You know, on my setup, when I play it through, it sounds great. You know, there's times where the program is quieter and you can hear some surface noise, but really it's consistent. And, you know, even when it's a little bit more significant, the volume of the surface noise, the consistency of it actually keeps it from being distracting. Like if you got a super clean record with like a couple gashes in it, it just keeps crackling every rotation. That's almost more annoying than if there's this consistent kind of like light crackle, you know. And this record was cut so loud. Last year when I was in Los Angeles, I came across a pretty standard 75th anniversary US pressing of this album, new, and I picked it up, and when I got to listening to it, I was just like, something's not right with this, you know? I mean, it wasn't awful, but there was some sort of distortion going on that did not sound good to me. And when I compared it to like the Spotify streaming version, I was just like, yeah, that's not on the master tape, you know? And I wasn't really super familiar with this album before all this. So I had known that I was looking for another copy, another pressing of it, and I just really hadn't found one. I was thinking about getting one of my good old 80s CDP US CDs mastered by Ron McMaster, and I still want to get that at some point. But yeah, there was a bit of serendipity here where I had been thinking about this record and looking for it, and lo and behold, this came up. You know, the cover's got the bottom split. The top is pretty much intact. It's a solid VG. It's a presentable cover, and the back slick looks good. No writing on the labels, no defacing. No damage from stickers or anything like that. That's the side one. The side two is here. And by the way, this is 4227, catalog 4227. This is the first number sequentially in the Blue Note catalog numbers where there's no addition with the Plastilite P, or ear as we call it. So this would be the first pressing. I had some idea of what this was worth, but I didn't know exactly how much it was worth. But I mean, this guy wanted, let me just say, he wanted a third of what I ended up eventually realizing this record was worth. So I couldn't have been happier. As far as the music goes, this has slowly grown on me. Joe Henderson in general has grown on me. I guess the first stuff I heard from him was always leaning towards the post-bop and the avant-garde and stuff, and I didn't really always appreciate how wild his playing could get at times. But it's becoming more clear to me, and I haven't really explored his career in the 70s and 80s, which I know is significant also. But it's becoming more clear to me that he always did a really good job of walking the line between hard bop and the structure of it and the avant-garde. Yeah, so this is a great album. It's a sextet lineup, seven musicians. To go down through the tracks, I mean, A Shade of Jade is the opener, and it's the album standout to me. The thing, when I listen to the playback of this, and you'll be able to hear it on my website, I'll put a link to my website with needle drops down below. But I was hoping that Rudy's mastering, his original mono mastering of this, would have balls, and you know, because of stuff like Shade of Jade, and it does. It does not disappoint. And in the mid 60s, I would say starting 62, 3, 4, 5, and on, Rudy got pretty heavy-handed with his mono cutting. And I feel like there are times where I'm hearing distortion on his original LPs that are not on the master tape, and as a result are not on subsequent remasterings. This album is an exception, meaning that there's no inherent distortion from what I can hear on the album. Going from that wide stereo of the 75th anniversary to this like straight ahead, original, authentic, vintage mono, it was a revelation. It really was. And the fact that it was so punchy, it just fit the music perfectly. Maybe I could have appreciated a little more low end in Rudy's original cut, but I mean, it really had that emphasis that I was looking for from music, especially like the title track. Mode for Joe, written by Cedar Walton, that's got a really cool, catchy melody in it. You get Joe Chambers pinging on the ride, and it's just a beautiful thing, man. The kind of drum work that he was doing, and like Tony Williams, and maybe to a lesser extent Elvin Jones in like the mid-60s, man. I just love that minimalist style of comping that those drummers were doing at that time during the soloists' performances. You know, just kind of that sort of randomized pinging that Chambers does, and all the while he managed to throw in these thunderous fills and stuff, and the way that Rudy recorded him, it's just so strong, and it doesn't distort. So it's outstanding. Black is the last song on the first side, and that's also by Cedar Walton, and that's another one of my album favorites. Opening the second side, though, probably even better in my opinion, would be the opener of the second side, Caribbean Fire Dance, which reminds me of the opener to Blue Mitchell's The Thing to Do. The song is called Fungi Mama. That has Al Foster on the drums, but it's the same kind of Latin rhythm. Fungi Mama has like a more fun feel to it. There's something like menacing and like foreboding about Caribbean Fire Dance that's just kind of exciting. Lee Morgan plays this like super hot note at the beginning of his solo that I absolutely love. And then you get these cool like harmonious horn stabs like near the end of the track that just kind of mix it up, and great song. From there, in my opinion, the album kind of closes on a little bit of a slide. Granted is decent enough for me to play it through, and I'm not really crazy about the writing, but the soloing is definitely top notch. And then the album closes with Freewheelin', which, if any of you watched my Sidewinder review, is yet another Lee Morgan composition that ends up coming across as a little hokey. And it doesn't really do it for me. So probably more times than not, I'm gonna probably get up and take the record off before I play that track. Album art wise, I mean, what's not to love about this amazing cover? Reed Miles, just top form here. This album is highly recommended. Don't forget to check out my needle drops on my website. And thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.